Hey, you believers, non-believers, unaffiliated believers, sort of believers, and even you think I'm a believers, welcome. My non-university unstudents, welcome to the Uncensored Unprofessor, a crisp October morning greeting to you. A few days ago, I was sitting in prayer and I said, Lord, today, you know what I'm going to say. Jesus, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. You know for whom I'm going to intervene. So today, I'm just going to listen. And I sat there quietly listening. Now, I have to confess, I like to pray in front of a 20-inch wide by 24-inch tall icon of Jesus Christ. It's called Christ Deosis, Christ praying for us. So I was praying and he was praying, right? Because Hebrews teaches us that the Lord is in heaven praying for us. Guess what I heard the Lord saying to me? I am eccentric. There's an odd one. He is eccentric. He said, frequently I don't play by the rules. I didn't own a house. I didn't join insider clubs. I said and did weird things. Did weird things in weird ways. I lived by a different value system. It wasn't all about power for me. And you, my hanging on my every word listener, you'll likely think I'm odd for telling you this, but if you look long enough at the icon, it's such a rich blessing from God to me. Thank you again and again, over and over, Kathy. When you look at that icon, you start to see things about Jesus, and I can't and I won't describe the icon for you today. Suffice it to say that at the crook of Jesus' neck there is a shadow in the shape of a whale's tail, and I chuckled. I chuckled when I thought about Jesus saying that he would be, like Jonah, in the belly of the earth. For Jonah it was a whale, right? Jesus said he'd be in the belly of the earth for 3 days. Jonah got swallowed by the whale, and here's Jesus looking at me with a whale shadow at his neck like, like he swallowed a whale. And actually, he did. He and not Hernando Poter. He was the archetypal Death Eater. By his death and resurrection, he conquered death. By dying, he conquered death. Death, that monster, was meant to devour him. Instead, Jesus killed death, defeated death, ate death. That's fairly weird. And because he ate death, death will not eat me. Praise God. Well, okay, stop. I'm waxing eloquent. I'm reflecting too long about my prayer encounter because what the Lord really emphasized to me that morning, he chooses eccentric people. My buddy Jerry Stinger pointed that one out to me a few months ago. The Lord chooses eccentric people. We are a peculiar people. And no, I will confess, eccentric is not synonymous with peculiar, because in 1 Peter 2:9, peculiar, we are a peculiar people. We're peculiar there because we are marked by Him, by Christ. But me, as I think through my Christian life, my whole span of living for Christ, I still believe the Lord chooses peculiar, eccentric persons. Now, for my daily habit, I've been reading through First College Administrators. Sorry, I meant to say First Kings. What a horror story. A bunch of eccentric kings, non-leaders. David, the shepherd boy, turns out to be an amazingly charismatic warrior leader with quite the sexual appetite. His son, Solomon? Only the wisest man to ever walk the planet. Kings and queens traversed hundreds of expensive miles just to listen to Solomon. But he was an eccentric. He was even a foolish man. Wise as he was foolish. He fell prey to having 700 wives and 300 concubines. And look, even if those numbers are illustrative and not literal. The dude had too many wives. Eccentric. Then there was King Ahab. Just the worstest king ever, says the author. Ahab, adult enough to have married Jezebel. Who marries or who stays married to a lying spirit like Jezebel? Why are people so enthralled by lying spirits? Geesh, my skin is crawling. But even though Ahab committed innumerable, unspeakable sins, he repented, covered himself in sackcloth, and fasted. And guess what? God, holy God, even forgave an eccentric, despicable like Ahab. Seems to me God chooses eccentric people. God chooses weird people. God chooses foolish people, Paul said. God chooses broken people to be his sons and daughters. Here's the Oxford Dictionary definition of eccentric. Unconventional, slightly strange, or a thing not placed centrally on its axis. Wow, that's me. I'm definitely not centrally placed on the axis. And still more, I'm daily gobsmacked at how millions of people accept our 2020 doings as the normal axis. COVID, are you freaking kidding me? People are laying down their entire lives and families and futures before non-medically trained politicians, before political doctors whose information changes weekly? Seriously? People are laying down before Marxist rioting? Are you stone cold joshing me? People accept at face value the lies of a Jezebel redux, Jezebel 21st century version. That's not Jezebel dressed up in ancient silken sexy lingerie, but that's Jezebel 21st century, garbed all in black dyed cotton sweatshirts, heads and faces covered in black, and people are bowing down and paying fealty to that? Gall darn. Not me. I won't play. And I guess that makes me eccentric. My axis is not aligned like that. Gulp. Are you? Is your axis aligned with the Jezebel of our era? Or are you off plane? Are you like me where your axis is eccentric too? Geesh. Here's one last pastoral thought before I get in today's stated theme, is God nice? Hey, do Christians bother you? Do Christians drive you crazy? Do Christians consistently do things that cause you to chafe? Me too! My whole life in Christ has been just that. Being driven crazy by crazy people. People who say they're following Jesus Christ. People who say they confess Him as Lord and Savior. Broken, weird, imperfect, blemished, eccentric. Yeah, that's it. Eccentric persons. So let's remind ourselves today, boys and girls, God chooses eccentric people. He chose me, and in my heart of hearts I know I'm eccentric. I hope He's chosen you. And if He has, extend some gratia. Extend some grace to individual believers and grace to the assembly of believers, the church. Because God chooses people who are clear off their axis. The cool thing? He chooses people in order to be off their axis because He is. His ways are not our ways. He's oriented to a different axis than those who live craving for power. Holy, holy, holy. Is God nice? I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know when I say that the constant human religious tendency is to remake God into our own image. In biblical terminology, it's called idolatry, erecting false gods. You can see that tendency in the Old Testament where tribes had gods who were vengeful. They'd ravage and destroy anyone in their way. Or we read about sex-crazed gods that demanded their adherents worship them, the gods, by having occultic orgies. Crazy. I've always thought, what a swell religion. Temple sex with prostitutes? What a swollen way to honor the gods. They, they must be giddy when folks have sex with strangers wearing religious garb. Oh, the humanity. Do we ever like to have our cake and eat it too? Religion coupled with sex? Bazinga! That's a tiny slice of idolatry from the ancient world. Across the last 100 years in post-Civil War America, we had, for 70 years, a God who was angry. If you listen to preachers, God hated it when we enjoyed ourselves or creation. God couldn't wait to judge people and send them to hell. And too much of Christianity, both Protestant and Catholic, was like that. And now for the last, 30 or 40 or so dismal years, historians are going to look back on our era as a nadir, a low point in church history. For the last 40 or so dismal years, we have a God who's our buddy. He only wants to bless us, help us to be our best selves, wants to serve our interests. A God who wants to include everyone, even those who curse his name and shred his creation. No, today we worship a nice God. And what a coinky-dink, we ourselves are nice people. And you guys, it's just as much a form of idolatry as the ancient sex cults. But my question is that true? Is God nice? My son John and I, we like to talk along these lines. He likes to hunt big game. He just got a deer yesterday. He's cutting it up, butchering it, preparing it today. But he likes to be outside in the untamed wilderness. And we've had this conversation a few times. Is God really nice? Well, let me explain it to you like this. Because I've learned there's mansplaining. So I thought, it'd be fun to do some you-splaining. Tertullian was a theologian who lived in Rome in the 2nd century. He was a Latin theologian. But really this idea developed during the medieval era among Roman Catholic philosophers and theologians. And they said there are 2 books about God available to the human race. First, the Bible, the printed book, and secondly, the book of creation, the book of nature, the book of information that exists around us daily. So, look, Tertullian knew that even the printed book hardly portrays a nice God. I mean, the biblical God gave commands. The biblical God created hell for the devil and his angels, and all those who throw all in with them. The biblical God judges people, both in this life, by allowing them to go their own ways, and in the life to come. The biblical God demands people repent before they follow him. So the biblical God is hardly some grandfatherly pushover. The biblical God is holy. What then about the second book, the book of creation? What does it tell us about God? Well, if I watch it, if I pay attention, I'd say, at least he's not in a hurry. If you're not in a hurry, is that nice? Fasten your seatbelt. For all of you preparing to leave planet Earth on that red, white, and blue American evangelical rapture bus, God is not in a hurry. Only 2,000 years worth of Christians have thought they were living in the end days. I mean, they were right to do it, but sometimes we think we're the only generation that's not going to endure. Geez, the millions of believers in Russia when Lenin and then after him Stalin were freezing and starving and shooting people to death, those Christians had good reason to believe the end was near. God's not in a hurry. Unless there's some massive scientific community conspiracy, God took billions of years before he brought us about on the planet. Hurry up, God! Oh, he chuckles at my feverish demands. What else? If by observing nature, God's book of creation, what else would we learn about God? Well, I think we'd learn that he's either himself beautiful or that he loves beauty. If God is indeed the creator, and if you'll grant me that point, should it not be the case that reality reflects something of his character? I mean, what artifact, what piece of craftsmanship, what painting, what artwork fails to reflect something of the creator? At bare minimum, all art reflects the skill of its maker. I mean, we can't infer too much on that point, right? We wouldn't know what color Michelangelo's eyes were by examining his brilliant statue of David, which I've had the privilege to view twice in Florence at the Accademia. But we sure could infer that Michelangelo had studied deeply, penetratingly, the human form. He knew exactly where veins appear under the skin of the left calf. He knew exactly where and what veins running across the top of feet looked like. Still more, by looking at Michelangelo's David, we experience something of the imagination of the great sculptor. We see the skill, we see the imagination of his work. He made his David 17 feet tall and 12,000 pounds big. And that was a way to invert the biblical story where Goliath was the giant. How fun! Michelangelo, what imagination! What imaginative skill! What skillful imagination! And for me, there's beauty to be found in seeing what Michelangelo took the time to carefully study and see, the human form. When I examined the David, it was so cool. I was there all by myself for most of 15 minutes one early weekday morning. And I had earbuds in playing classical music. And slowly moving about the David, I fought back tears. I was immersed in such beauty, such glorious history. And I enjoyed seeing what Michelangelo saw in the human form almost as much as what I saw in white granite standing there in front of me. Skillful imagination. Oh, so much of Christian art today is just dreck. So then, if God's creation reflects its creator, God, we certainly can infer that God is both skillful and imaginative. In fact, we could infer that God is not boring. Creation is hardly boring. Say what you will about a honeybee, bzzz. You don't like them, you're allergic to them, your finger swells grotesquely at the sting. You don't like them building a hive in your house top gutter. To think of some work I recently did. Think all that, but honeybees are definitely not boring. What little masterpieces. Surely you know that inside the hive, one bee will fly back in, do some kind of interpretive dance. Are honeybees charismatics? That bee will do some kind of interpretive dance that the other bees will watch, and that dance teaches them the distance and the directions to a white rose of Sharon that's pregnant with pollen waiting to be gathered on their legs, airlifted back to the hive, and consumed as the beehive's only protein source. Protein. Goodness, the average adult worker only lives 6 weeks, so they have to reproduce at a fairly rapid rate. It's really all miraculous. And whatever you think of that, it's far from boring. We would starve without the existence of bees. Honeybees are little miracles because God is both miraculous and does miracles. My point in my Michelangelo and honeybee analogies: creation both corresponds to its creator and reflects something about its creator. Because God is real, reality is real. Sorry to you, Broda Buddha. Broda Buddha. Those who do not believe in God have at least a little argument to make such that reality is not real. I happen to still think that's a flight of fancy, that reality is not real. But if there's no God, then it's at least plausible. It's at least a plausible argument that reality is not real. But no, God created reality for us to indwell. We are the earthly pinnacle of His creation. When we don't rightly indwell reality, things go bad for us. When we pretend reality isn't real, we can get quickly injured, trampled, beat up, starved, if not killed. And the same is true with the order of nature, the order of creation. We observe the patterns, the rhythms, the seasons, the cycles to creation. Things do come full circle. The circle of life. Ooh, that was really off. Sometimes for discernible reasons, the seed sown in spring brings luscious tomatoes in the summer. Sometimes the circle is discernible. Other times it's even purposeless, right? Do forest fires truly need to burn millions of acres of trees and all the animals inside? Do diseases really need to wipe out entire herds of mammals? If you observe the book of creation, there's a wildness to nature, and it makes me wonder if God Himself is not just a little wild. Do grizzly bears have to be so ornery? Did God have to make a bear that will not only quietly eat a blackberry, but just as happily kill and eat a newborn elk? And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not convinced that predation in the animal kingdom is all the result of the fall. What did he say? I'm not convinced that predation in the animal kingdom is all the result of the fall. Dinosaurs existed before we did, and they were preying on, eating, all manner of life long before our fall in Eden. People have, we might discern from nature that God is a bloodthirsty God. Me, I don't believe that. But I do, you guys, I do believe that God is a fierce God. Crikey. I know that He's far less tame than what I hear in so many churches today. Roman Catholic churches are hardly exempt from that twisted dynamic. God is not tame. He's fierce. God can only be mocked for so long. The structure of reality can be perverted only for so long, and then the sinew starts to fray and unwind and come undone and then snap, inevitably so. All of that then to say is, if reality is real, if creation is real, then its maker is patient, skilled, imaginative, designed, and ordered, and fierce. And let me pause there because the point is seminal. Isn't fierce contrary to nice? I've said it before. But on Christian college campuses, the fruit of the Spirit is niceness. Don't dare ask aloud a politically incorrect question. Hey, are there minority communities that do things to hamstring themselves? How dare you? That's not nice. Or don't you dare probe a line of inquiry that could be theologically uncomfortable. Did dinosaurs exist before us, before Eden? Ed, that's not nice. It's not nice to think outside the box. Or don't you dare ask the faculty, hey, you guys, wouldn't this be the time to be courageous? Christians aren't called to be courageous anyway. Oh, dearie, come here. You need a hug. Courage is the necessary language of a fierce battle. Yeah? Well, I have news for you, Norman Niceness. Courage needs to exist because tension exists. Problems exist. Confrontations exist in life. Gulp, power structures, and warfare all exist here on planet Earth. And actually, the Bible does call those to follow God to courage repeatedly. Famously in the Old Testament, Joshua was told by the Lord to be strong and courageous. Be strong and very courageous. Be strong and courageous, and do not be frightened or dismayed. Joshua 1, 6, verses 6, 8, and 9, and there's that Jewish repetition of something important again. But to me, it makes sense that one needs courage in a season, in an existence of warfare, right? Need some coffee here for a minute. Let me interrupt my thoughts to report this not nice item I just encountered. A lady wrote the show. My husband works as a service technician for a large exterminating company. One of the rules of the company is that he has to confirm each appointment by phone the night before his service call to that household. One evening he made such a call, and when a man answered the phone, he said, "Hi, this is Gary from A to Z Pest Control Company. Your wife phoned us." There was a long silence, and then the pest control worker heard the man on the other end say, "Honey, it's for you. Someone wants to talk to you about your relatives." Thank you very much, Mikey's Funnies. Hey, do you want to be part of the UU doings? Please go to the UU webpage, uncensoredunprofessor.com, and sign up for my e-newsletter. I sent one out last week. Of course, I treasure all prayers for the UU show, prayers for wisdom, favor, relationship, team building, resources. I am eager to build a team of folks who want to help believers turn their minds on for the beautiful one, Jesus of Nazareth. Oh, and you can help by sharing a UU post or a RSS feed link to your social media platform. Thank you dearly, my friend James M., for doing that recently a couple of times. Que bueno! You guys, life on planet Earth often involves fierce confrontation. Living conditions on planet Earth are commonly fierce. Are you kidding me? We've had 10 hurricanes hit the southern coast of the United States this year? Or the powers in many states are fine with statue-toppling mobs but refuse to allow the church to gather for worship? Egads! Your eyebrow is twitching, Inspector Dreyfus. Life's ferocity means we need courage just to live in a godless society. 1 Peter Chapter 5, verses 8 through 10 is a call to daily living. And in order that they know godly success, Peter instructs his readers to embrace humility, discipline, alertness, and resistance. Again, all for daily life. Peter wanted his disciples to stand firm for Christ. The devil, hell, the world spirit, my favorite phrase for that which assails us, because we don't only do battle with demons. More commonly, we do battle with ideas, atmospheres, moods, value systems, lies about reality or human nature that all stem from the heart of darkness, the heart of the one who would destroy our souls if he could, the devil, and the combination, the accumulation of all of that I call the world spirit. The world spirit regularly, daily assails us. But we do. We have something we're standing for. Oh, you don't? Well, I sure do. Freedom being just a part of that. Dear Jesus, take a stand, American church. Take a stand. Your passivity is going to lead to not only your own public destruction, but the immense suffering of hundreds of millions around the world. The World Health Organization is saying that one of the downsides, one of the trickle-down eventualities of COVID now means that millions of people are starving because we don't have courage, because this fierce thing has confronted us and we melt instead of ourselves being fierce. You guys, there are things worth standing for. There are things worth fighting for. Show some spine.
Ed, why, Ed? Why are you talking like this? Why can't you just leave well enough alone? Why can't you just be nice?
Okay, sure, I'll tell you why. The God that Christians are serving today is boring. And like them, he's too soft. He's too cuddly. He's too butler-y. He's, well, to quote Ulrich Lehner.
Wait, what? Did you say happy learner?
No, I said Ulrich Lehner, Marquette University professor of religious history. He said that God is, quote, a vending machine. And I'm thinking, who wants to serve a vending machine? Who wants to give their identity to a vending machine? Vending machines don't place demands upon people. The biblical God does. Vending machines, because I guess they are nice, vending machines don't threaten to judge people. Is it threaten or promise? Vending machines don't say not nice things like, look, here's the deal, you get one life to live. Yep, you get to do whatever you want with it. And yep, you will answer for every thought, deed, and word. Vending machines don't place any demands upon us, don't give us commands. The living God does. And you know what? For me, I'm a bit angry. I'm angry that millions of high school and college-aged people are abandoning the Christian faith. And angrier still, that thousands of pastors present such a bland, vapid, bleepingly tame God. It's a form of idolatry, recreating God in our own image. We present a tame God. And I'm doubly angry that they're doing all of that for the sake of being nice. And being nice, we're told, is the new gospel. Being nice is churchly normal. You guys, the world spirit has no complaint with nice Christians. None. Nice Christians represent no threat to those who hate God. Nice church folk will hardly ever endure spiritual attack. They're just not worth the enemy's time. Nice Christians don't have to worry about attacks because they present no threat. Do you want to know one of the greatest compliments I ever received as a professor? a student walked up to me at the end of class and he said, "Dr. Ibarchek, you are a dangerous man with dangerous ideas." And that was spoken to me by a young man who had thrown the entirety of his identity in with the values of the world spirit. Me? I was honored, and I told him so. Anyway, the truth is, God is not nice. God is fierce. God is holy. God is transcendent, eternal, majestic, awe-inspiring. And yes, He's gracious and merciful. Praise you, merciful God. But no, God is not our puppet, our teddy bear, our vending machine. And me, honestly, I want someone meaningful to live for. I won't live for a tame God. Thanks for listening with me today, you guys. I'm going to continue this series. I'm going to talk about how culture is pressing down upon us. I'm going to continue to follow Dr. Lerner's Dr. Lehner, Dr. Lehner's book, God is Not Nice, and draw out my own implications of that. Thank you so much for listening. Please, you know it, please go and turn your beautiful God-given brains on, everybody.